A very good morning to everyone attending this program. On behalf of Annamalai University, Alumni Association, and Training and Placement Cell, Faculty of Engineering and Technology, Annamalai University, I take the privilege in welcoming you all for the Ignite Student Mentorship Program on career options in space science and technology. A life of gratitude is to open our eyes to the countless ways in which we are supported by the world around us. So today, we have our guest speaker, Mr. A. Purushothaman. He is an alumnus of Annamalai University of the batch 1992, Instrumentation Engineering. He holds a management degree from Anna University. He is the group head of Optics Division at Electrotech International and responsible for managing both Indian and international agencies. He works closely with many research organizations in India and promotes remote sensing and industrial equipments. He is a specialist in hyperspectral radiometry. Now our guest speaker will give us guidance in the field of space science and technology. If a window of opportunity appears, don't pull down the shade. So I request everyone to make good use of this opportunity, and if any queries, put it in the chat box so it can be discussed in the question and answer session. Over to Mr. A. Purushothaman.
Good morning, distinguished chief guests and participants. Hope you are able to hear me.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so it's a great pleasure to meet you all, and it is honor and privilege for me to interact with the students in front of my teachers, I think. I remember during my fluid mechanics lab session, we interacted with Dr. Murugappan, and who is now the Dean, Faculty of Engineering and Technology. So though it is a virtual meeting, I'm sure it will be more interactive and useful to you all. And before I go to the presentation and start this discussion, I would like to thank you for giving this opportunity to interact with the final year students of Annamalai University, Faculty of Engineering and Technology. I would like to thank especially my classmate Magendra Kumar and his team, Mr. Gopi Kumar, faculties, placement officers, and others for this initiative. Annamalai University is always close to my heart, and I always cherish the moments spent in the campus during 1988 to 1992. It's almost 4 years. And now we are 28 years after this, still we cherish the moment. Every year we try to meet after some get-together reunions and something. I remember the days we spent in Annamalai University campus, and it will be grateful for the eminent group of teachers who have paved way for my successful journey. During this today's discussion, it's not going to be a corporate presentation or something like that. It is going to be an interaction with your team. And I would like to highlight some of the points to start the career in the space science and technology. It's going to be a small presentation come interactions. So I'm going to share my screen to you, presentation slides, and then we can have an interaction at the end of the session. So let me start the presentation. Yeah, can you see the first slide of the presentation?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay, so today's topic is career in space science and technology. So it looks very interesting, and maybe it is very attractive. Let us first talk a little bit about my memories with Annamalai University. So this is my college group photo in 1992. So it's very difficult to recognize me in this group photo. I did my instrumentation engineering during 88 to 92 under Professor Vaidyanathan, head of the department. And I remember all my faculty members like Professor DSK, and also CNN, KNN, and Shanti ma'am, and Kyle Vidi ma'am. So I still remember all of them. And every time when I pass Chidambaram, I used to visit the campus. I used to go a walk around the campus and cherish all my memories. And in fact, during our college days, these are our hot spots. I don't know, still it is there. I think in 2016, I came to Chidambaram and I visited these places. These are all some of the hot spots like Tamara Illam and post office. That is, we call it as a PC corner or something like that. And then we had a canteen in the campus. We call at that time Vaidik canteen something. And we also have a lot of spots in Chidambaram's town, and particularly the temple, the railway station, and in fact, we have a VLR and NVLR restaurants in railway station where we used to spend a lot of time. And in the town, we used to have this AAA Baroda shop restaurant. I think still it is there, but though the setup has changed, but still it is there, AAA Baroda stop. And also there is one famous idli shop is there. And I stayed at Mariappan Nagar, which is close to our campus, and I have not spent my time in hostel. So my life and my days are different than the hostel life. So I stayed at Mariappan Nagar. And after finishing my degree, I joined a private company in Chennai, which was dealing with the microprocessor-based instruments. And since my background is instrumentation, I tried to stay with this same domain, same instrumentation. So that's how I started my career with a private company. Then after working for 4 years, I moved to this company called Electrotech International. It's based in Chennai, and it's almost like more than 35, 37 years old company. And we are in Alvarpage. So in our office, Electrotech, we have 4 major divisions, and we call it as based on the products and based on the applications, we call it as the divisions. So one of the division is environmental and meteorological divisions, and geophysical division, ocean and marine division, and remote sensing division. In addition to this, we have an order processing division, and then a team of electronics engineers for providing the technical support. Service department is there. And we have a back-end office, we have administration, accounts department, and all others. In environmental and meteorological divisions, we have products for measuring the rain rate, wind speed, velocity, directions, and something related to atmospheric research. It's mainly. And we represent some companies from abroad, from Germany and UK. And in geophysics and mining divisions, we have some specialized product for geophysical exploration for earth science applications like magnetometers, seismographs, resistivity meter, EM systems, and all. These are all from US, Germany, and Canada. And in oceanography and marine science divisions, these equipments are used for oceanography research applications and marine applications. We have fluorometers, acoustic Doppler velocimeters, wave and tide gauges, something like that from US, Norway, and these instruments are being used for research in ocean applications like tsunami detection or from oil spill detections in ocean, something like that. And we have a remote sensing division, and at present I'm handling this remote sensing division where we have some products for hyperspectral remote sensing applications. We call it as a spectrodiometers, imaging spectrometers, FTIR spectrometers, and these are all the products from US. These are all some specialized products, instrumentations, and where it is not available in India, and so we always get these products from abroad. Now the situation is different. So where now there are a lot of startup companies, they make their own products, they make their own technologies, and there is a lot of updates now. So I would like to share some of my experience, and I also, since now at present I'm handling this remote sensing division for the past maybe 7-8 years, I would like to highlight some of the job opportunities available in these divisions, in these sectors, so that it may be useful for your career. Yeah, so let us go to the topic. Today's topic is career in space science and technology. So basically, space science, it always says that the people who went to the space, like Rakesh Sharma or Kalpana Chawla or something like that. But beyond this, there is a science, there is a data available, and there are some informations available, which is used for many applications. So basically, a space agency like ISRO or NASA, they employ a lot of scientists and a lot of technicians and experts, and which we have not heard about it. But recently, because of the latest informations available, now we come across the experts like Shivan, Dr. Abdul Kalam, or somebody like that. Whereas in earlier days, we don't know anything about the space science. All we know is the people who went for moon or who went outside the space. So only we know by name, not by the technology, or not by this one. So now the space science and technology, it offers you several job opportunities where you can be part of making the space science a fiction which comes true. And yeah, just a little bit a background about this. Every year, the government spends huge amount of money. Something in the recent budget, they are allocated something like 13,000 crore rupees for the space science program. So it's just a common people. They wonder why government sends so much money in sending the satellites and space programs, because there is a lot of other things to be done in the earth, infrastructures to be developed. We need good roads, we need good water, something like that. But still, they spend huge amount of money in this space program. So it is not wasting money. So it is just like that. India is making a huge investment, and it is going to pay off. It is going to be very useful for us. That the recent one is that now ISRO, the one of the facility we have, the space agency, they launch we our own satellites and also the satellites for our neighboring countries, which brings us a massive income, foreign exchange. We get a lot of income from other countries where we launch their satellites. So this is something like not wasting money. So technicians and technologists and scientists, one should understand this. So we are not wasting money, we are making investment. So all we know is next is about the satellites. The satellites we sent every year, maybe in a year we send 2 or 3, or even now it is becoming maybe 4 or 5 in a year, something. We send it to the space, which helps us to transmit our TV signals, radio signals, and then telephone signals, so that it makes our navigation systems, which is used by cars and aeroplanes and other insights, which gives us a better care of Earth. And the satellites, they also allow us to take a closer look at the Earth features, such as like our atmosphere, the forest, and the glaciers, the weather conditions, and the cities developments, and all those things. So it gives you a lot of information, the satellites data, which gives you a lot of information, and which has made us possible for us to understand how pollution from our car, factories, and homes is destroying the ozone layer. In fact, this ozone layer is the one which protects us from the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays. But based on the satellite images from the cities like Delhi, cities like Mumbai, Chennai, we can understand that how these vehicles, factories, and all polluting our atmosphere. So we can check the satellite informations. So that's why we spend so much money on this. The satellites we spend out in space, it provides a lot of scientific data to the scientific community and government agencies for decision making. For example, they know the crop status, when the yield is going to happen, and how much we are going to harvest, and how much we are going to get those things. So this are all help the government agencies for planning purpose, and also for any drought conditions. If there is anything, then they can plan accordingly. So something like it is called as a precision agriculture. And also the satellites, they allow us to take a closer look on our neighboring countries towards the safety of our nation. And if we heard about that recent things that one of our neighbor country has occupied some of our space in northeastern part of our country. So those are all the informations we get from our satellite images, satellite data. So it is basically the information which is sent by the satellites that has made it possible for us to access our natural resources. So from the satellite images and from the satellite data, we know what is our natural resources available, especially if the mining exploration group and also the oil and gas agencies, they can easily assess their resources available at present using the satellite data. So the more we send the satellites, it's going to help us. So who are all involved in this space program, space science and technology? So it's all technicians and technologists. They often work closely with engineers and scientists to build the satellites, to test it, and then to send it to the space for the technological innovations. Basically, the diverse engineering streams can lead you into this field of space science. So people from engineers from aerospace and aeronautical engineers from electronics and instrumentation, computer science, material science, technical telecommunication engineering. So all these people, they join together and they form as a team, and then they make this space science success. Apart from this engineers, apart from this scientists and technologists, there are other group of science people. They also work closely with this space science programs. For example, a geologist whose background is from geology and earth science, he takes the satellite data and studies the geological features of Earth and other planets like Moon and Mars or whatever it is. So they study the geological features, the physical features, how it was formed and when it was formed, and all those studies he can pursue. Similarly, the meteorologist who is working on this atmospheric research, they use this satellites information and the data, and they predict the weather conditions, the tsunamis or floods or whatever it is. So they use this satellite informations. And similarly, the biologists also, they used to find out the life on the other planets. And so apart from technical engineering backgrounds, people from other faculty, other science also, they are all involved in the space science programs. For the nature of work in this space science program, so most of them are scientists or from core engineering branches like mechanical engineering, computer science engineering, electronics and instrumentation engineering. And I think that now I'm addressing to the students from all the faculties, all the engineering departments. So I think this will be a very useful for you. For example, a communication engineer who is want to set up a career in the space science program, he will get involved in designing the analog communication tools, microwave engineering tools, and also for the satellite communications, antennas, and wave propagations, which are all need to run and ensure that satellites are functioning properly. So there is a huge demand for the electronics and communication engineers in this space science programs. Similarly, the computer science background and the information technology people, because once we send the satellites, it is going to stay there for a couple of years and many years, and it is going to send the data periodically to the ground stations. So once we have the data, it is going to be a huge data. So it is a large amount of data it will produce. So we need to store the data, we need to do analysis, and we need to calculate so many things. So the people from computer science background and information technology, so they are all required for this science programs. Similarly, the instrumentation engineer groups and also the electronics people, they need for the space science. They build the instruments which are launched into the space. For example, recently we have launched a hyperspectral camera to the moon and infrared cameras. So those things are all designed and developed by ISRO group, and they are all from electronics and instrumentation background. Similarly, the mechanical engineer group, they develop the launch vehicles and also the device which is required for space science and exploration, like rovers and all those things. So it's basically a group of engineers from all departments, and they work as a team and they make this program a success. So that's why whenever you see this launch program live in the TV, you can see that there is a team of people sitting and they watch this program, like a cricket match or whatever it is. But they are the people who are behind this successful mission. So where can this space scientist work in India, particularly? ISRO is the major agency, which is called as Indian Space Research Organizations, and then we have DRDO, which is called Defense Research and Development Organizations, where they use this a lot of satellite pictures, data for their applications for safety and also for vehicle launch and all those things. Similarly, there is aeronautics laboratories like Hindustan Aeronautics Laboratory and the National Aeronautic Laboratories and others. So where they develop this launch vehicles and aerial platforms to deploy the sensors and fly. And we also have the R&D laboratories like National Atmospheric Research Laboratory in Tirupati, it is in Gadangi, and also we have other R&D centers and military operations space scientists. So they hire this engineers and space scientists for their applications. And sooner or later, we are going to start this. I mean, India and other countries, they're going to start this space tourisms. So we are going to, they are going to send the people to the moon for space, for tourism, this one. So there is a lot of requirements for those things, and also the repair and maintenance workshops are there in India, and also the satellite centers, liquid propulsion, LPSCs and NRSCs are there. So where there is a lot of job requirements, job and research opportunities are there. So let us talk a little bit about the ISRO, and you can always find this information from their website or from Wikipedia, something like this. So it was founded in 1969. It is almost like more than 50 years, and now we are the 6th largest space agencies in the world, after this NASA and European space agencies and other agencies. And we have one of the largest fleet of remote sensing satellites available, which we call it as INSAT, for communication purposes. And also we use several other satellites for broadcast and communications, geographical information systems, and also for a distance education satellites. And maybe you may be aware that we have sent some lot of CubeSats, or something like a mini satellites. We call it as a EduSat or something like that, which is meant for long distance educational programs and all those things. So to make this possible, ISRO, they develop cost efficient and reliable instruments. So they make their own instruments, they make their own tools and launch systems. You know that we have our own PSLV launch systems, launch vehicles, and we do it on our own. And we earlier days, and I remember we used to send our satellites from Russia. So, but now we have a lot of launch facilities available in India, and we send our own satellites, and also from satellites from our neighboring countries. And also we work on this lunar and interplanetary missions. That means we used to send our satellites and this one space instruments to other planets like Moon, and also to Chandrayaan, the recent launches, Chandrayaan 2 and all those things. So those are all different applications, which is for interplanetary missions. So the organizations also contributes, the ISRO also contributes to science education and research in India. So they have a lot of research centers and autonomous institutions in various parts of our country. So where people can do their higher studies. You can do your MTech, you can do your PhDs and all those things. So based on these informations, we can find out that ISRO needs a huge workforce. Every year they recruit thousands of people, scientists and technicians, which is highly skilled and knowledgeable to handle these projects, space science projects. And as I said, every year they spend something like 13,000 crore, almost every year they spend. And as of now, there are something like 17,000 employees are working in ISRO centers. ISRO, they have various facilities because once we launch the satellite, it is not just from a single center, single facility. So there are so many other components involved in this, and it's all being done in various parts of the country. And maybe, I don't know whether you have seen this, you could have seen some huge something like a rocket or something, a launch vehicle being transported from Trivandrum. So they all make this at VSSC. We call it as the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. So where all these launch vehicles are made, and I used to visit this facility, and we provide them some instrumentations for them for designing their launch vehicles. And also there is a equatorial rocket launch station is there in Thiruvananthapuram, that is Trivandrum. And also they have a PRL, Physical Research Laboratory, so where they study about this interplanet, solar planetary physics, and also the various divisions in physics, like astrophysics, archaeology, hydrology. So all those things they study based on their satellite data. The Liquid Propulsion System Center, LPSC, it is also in Thiruvananthapuram and also in Bangalore. So they develop this engines, the control packages, and which is required for this launch vehicles. And we have a NARL, National Aeronautic Research Facilities. These are all the facilities where all this research is going on for each and every space program, science program. So a lot of research is going on at all these facilities. And I work closely with the Space Applications Center, Ahmedabad. It is one of the huge center where they do a lot of research, and they are the people who are responsible for this communications for between the satellites and ground stations and all those things. And also they work on the data, satellite data for remote sensing application, environmental applications, and all those things. And also we have a station in NESAC, we call it as a Northeastern Space Application Center in Shillong. We also provide the support to northeastern part of our country by undertaking the specific applications and GIS tools which is required for northeastern states of our country. And we have construction launch facilities by ISRO. All we know is something like in Sriharikota, we have this SDSPC, that is Satish Dhawan Space Center, where most of our satellites are being launched from this Sriharikota. So they get this launch vehicles from Trivandrum, they get the satellites from Bangalore, they get the communication protocols from Ahmedabad, they put everything in Sriharikota and launch it. And we have Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launching Station in Trivandrum, and we have UR satellite centers in Bangalore. So we have some couple of launch facilities, and I remember they are also going to start a launch facility in Kulasegarapattinam or something in south of Tamil Nadu. That's a project is they are going to initiate this. They've initiated and started, but it is going to be implemented soon. And once we send the satellites, you know that it is going to give us a lot of data, a lot of information. So we need to have a tracking and control facilities in India so that we can control and track the satellites, and we will get all the informations, whatever the informations we need. So we have a master control facility in Azam and also in Bhopal, where it does all the controls of the satellites. So it communicates with the satellites and it gives information and it controls the satellite navigations and all those things. And do you remember that recently when we launched this Chandrayaan-2, one of the component got failed and crashed, and we have asked NASA to track it. So they have navigated their satellite and they try to identify where it crashed, how it crashed, and all those things. So all those things are all done from this control facility. We call that as a master control facility, and where a lot of communication protocol is being carried out there. For students like you, those who want to pursue your higher studies like PGs and MTechs and all those things, there are institutes, academics directly from ISRO, like Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, they are in Dehradun, and also we have an institute in Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, it is in Thiruvananthapuram, and also there are technology incubation centers, we call it as STICs, it is in Agartala, Jalandhar, and also in one in NIT Tiruchirappalli. And recently they have come up with some regional academy centers, RAC, something like that, where these universities, they have a separate facility, separate infrastructures available for pursuing this space science higher studies, PhDs and all those things. We have BHU, Banaras Hindu University, Kurukshetra University, and NITs, Karnataka, Patna, and IIT Varanasi. So where students can do their own higher studies, PGs and MTechs. To involve with the ISRO, a basic eligibility criteria is that you should not be more than 35 years. So now I cannot enter into this ISRO. I cannot work with ISRO directly. People from BTech or BE in streams like electrical, electronics, computer science, or mechanical engineering who have an aggregate score of 65% or more, and throughout the academic career, they should have a 65% or more. They are eligible for this ISRO job opportunities. And in fact, every year, I think, remember in April, they conduct a written test, which we call it as a CRC, Central Recruit Candidate Program something. And you can register for those exams online, and then you can participate in this ISRO. I mean, you can start working with the ISRO team. So it is being, we call it as a centralized recruitment board, so which is available in ISRO website. Maybe I can show you. And one who meet these eligibility conditions, which is set by ISRO, they can apply for these jobs. And the selection will be made through a written examination and an interview. And I remember last time for something like thousands of posts, there were something like lakhs and lakhs of people appeared for this examination. So it is very highly competitive field, and you need to qualify yourself, and you need to develop your skills to participate and to involve yourself with ISRO and space programs or space science on this one. And also the ISRO directly recruits the the candidates from their institutes like IISc and IITs and IIST, which comes directly under Autonomous Institute from ISR. And I'll just stop this one, and I will show you a website. So this is the ISRO website. You can go through this website, and once you scroll down and you click on this careers link, you can see that they always publish all their post their requirements in their website, and also some papers also, but they post it in their websites. So if you can see that they post a lot of they have a lot of requirements from various institutes, from various centers. For example, SAC Ahmedabad, they have, and also similarly PRL, what is the requirement? NESAC Shillong, what is their requirement? So all those things are all available in their website. And students, I request you to go through this and just open any one of this thing, and you can find out what exactly they are asking and how to develop your skills and how to prepare yourself. All those things are available in this website. For example, if I go to something like Northeastern, or say for example PRL Ahmedabad, then it opens a next page, and you can see that they are recruiting for the post of director. Oh my God, it's a good one. So so they put everything in the website, and you can go through this, and you can find out their application forms, their requirements, and the eligibility criterias, and all those things, and last date for applications, and all those things you can find out from their ISR website. Similarly, if you want to go for higher studies, and you can also go to this website called Indian Institute of Remote Sensing. It is in Dehradun, and you can see that there is a scroll bar, or there is an announcement where they require a lot of JRFs, junior research fellows, for their programs, and all those things they will announce it in their website. And if you want to go for something like academic, to pursue your higher studies, you can also go to the academic programs, and they provide you a lot of trainings, a lot of certifications to pursue your course, like MTech course and the PG diploma courses and all those things. So you can just enroll this and you can do it. And most of the courses, I remember, the PG diploma courses and all those things are all online, and maybe something like a distance education program, so something like that. And those things will help you to enter into ISRO, because those are all some additional skills they may ask you, and it may help you. So you may enter into this Indian Institute of Remote Sensing for higher studies. And similarly, we have NRSC, National Remote Sensing Center. They are based in Hyderabad, and they have almost 9 regional remote sensing centers across India, Kolkata, Jodhpur, Dehradun, Shillong, something like that, where they also conduct these programs, training programs, and they also take students for higher studies for something like that. So those things may be useful for you. You can just go through this website, and you can see this information is available. This one. So as I told you, there are other institutes also, which is ready to, they conduct a lot of programs for space science requirements, and they conduct a lot of certificate courses and all those things. And one good institute is from BIT, Birla Institute of Technology in Ranchi, and they do a lot of programs for this space science and technology. And IITs, Bombay, Chennai, Kharagpur, and Kanpur, they also have these things. And mostly in civil engineering department nowadays, they used to have a separate theme, separate this one for hyperspectral remote sensing, or something like a space science program, something like that. Yeah, so this is the courses, the types of courses where you can pursue your higher studies in National Weather Academy, in Central Water Commission in Pune, or NBSSLUP, National Bureau of Soil Survey and Land Use Planning, which is a ICAR unit. They are based in Nagpur, where you can pursue your studies in agriculture, remote sensing applications, or something like that. Or there are something like 40 plus universities and institutions available in India to pursue their postgraduate studies, PGs. And in fact, it is there in the website also, and mostly people get a salary package of roughly 2.5 lakhs to 3.5 lakhs as a fresher. and along with other benefits also, like housing facility, medical benefits, and travel allowances in ISRO centers. And there is no limit for what best the space scientists can earn if they are experts in this field. So they pay a very huge amount for their employees, and they take care of their employees. And that is one of the prime institute in India, and so it's always a dream to enter into ISRO. And international opportunities, we have various space agencies, like the famous is NASA from United States, and European Space Agency, and also JAXA, Japan Space Agency, and Chinese, Canada, so all these things. So there are international opportunities also available, but one should develop the skill, and one should have this knowledge and everything about this program, space science, and all these things to enter into this international opportunities. So now, since we are all engineers, we will little bit talk about the technology, which is a recent one, upcoming one, so that it may help you for your career development. We call it as remote sensing application. So remote sensing, you know that remote, something we are going to sense, something we are going to measure or monitor remotely without touching. So the sunlight which is falling on the earth, it passes through a huge column atmosphere, and then it enters and it touches the earth. And based on the earth features like buildings, rocks, minerals, water bodies, and whatever it is, the light is reflected back to the atmosphere and to the space. So we send the satellites to the space, and we see that what is that coming from the earth, and we capture it in the ground station, and we receive the data, and the computer people and the engineers, they analyze this data, and then they develop this application. So this is in a broadband, we call this as a remote sensing for satellite imaging systems. So as I told you, it is something like we are going to typically measure or observe from a distance. That is what we call as a remote sensing. So for that, we need the sensors, instruments for measure or to observe something. So we call that as a remote sensors. And these sensors are being deployed or being put in the satellite, and they are sent to the space. So Electrotech, we have been dealing with some instruments and components which is being used in the space, and we supply these systems to the ISRO centers, and that's how we get contacts with ISRO thing. And we have two different sensors, and I think electronics and the instrumentation background people, they know this, passive sensors and then active sensors. So something like a passive is which is a natural one, where we use the sunlight itself as a source of illumination, and then we measure what is reflected from the earth surface. Whereas the active sensors means we use something to illuminate, something like a laser beam or something like a flashlight or something to illuminate the sample, and then we measure what it is coming. So we have both passive sensors and active sensors in the satellites. So once we have the satellites data, this is being used in coastal applications research, where they monitor this shoreline changes, tsunami detections, and sediment transportations, how the sediments are being transported inside this ocean. And they map the coastal features, algae bloom and all those things, to find out how good the coastal line is, how environmental effects are there. I mean, environmental disaster is happening at the coastal lines. Similarly, the ocean applications, they measure the temperature, wave heights, so they track the sea ice data, and this can be used for to better manage the ocean resources. And there are a group of people working on hazard assessment, where they track the hurricanes, earthquakes, and all those things with the help of the satellite data. So I remember in the earlier days when we were at Chidambaram in 88-92, we had a severe flood. And I remember our colleges, our college was closed for almost more than 2-3 weeks because of heavy flood. And at the time, we are not at all aware that it's going to happen. The flood is going to happen, because we don't have that we don't have that information. All we had is that something like long-ranging forecasting systems, where we always know that in rainy season it is going to rain, in summer season it is going to be hot, but we don't know at what time, what date it is going to rain, and what time, what date we are going to get floods. But now we have this short-range weather forecasting systems, and where we call it as instantaneous weather forecasting. So immediately within few minutes, we will get an alert that it is going to flood, that there is going to be a cloud burst or something like that. So it's all because of this space programs and satellite data. So people work on this hazard assessment, and they give these predictions. You know that I don't know. There is one a blog writer and a weather predictor called Tamil Nadu Weatherman, and he's having his own Facebook and WhatsApp group. And once you follow his group and this one, you will know that he gives a predictions more or less something like 90% success rate, and he predicts that it is going to rain today evening 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, something like that. So he takes a lot of satellites data and images, and he does this analysis, and he gives his predictions. It is not a magic, it is all scientific data. So similarly, the people working in natural resource management, where they monitor this urban developments, encroachments, and all those things. So people nowadays, they destroy the lakes, they dump all those unwanted things in the lake, and they destroy it. So those things we can be monitored, and we can recover it. We can recover this natural resources. Similarly, for mining applications, illegal minings and all those things, we get a lot of this data. So we know that when light interacts with materials, either it will get reflected, or it will be fully absorbed, or it will be transmitted. So this is a basic physics. So depending upon the characteristics of the material target, certain portion of the light is reflected back. This is what we are going to measure. And for each target, for example, a vegetation, a plant, a crop will have a different spectral reflectance, and the water bodies will have a different spectral reflectance. The snow, ice, and this one, it will have a different reflectance. Dry soil will have a different reflectance. We call this as a spectral signature, which is very unique for the target, for that particular material, for the particular target. It's like our fingerprint. So my fingerprint will not match with any one of you. I mean, none of this one. So same thing. So the spectral signatures we study, and we measure it, and then based on this, we can come to some predictions. For example, when white light falls on the white surface, white light is reflected. Similarly, when it falls on the black surface, no light will be reflected. It will be completely absorbed. Similarly, when it falls on the red surface, a red color light only will be reflected, not all other lights. So based on this basic technology, so when the sunlight falls on the crop, certain portion of the light is absorbed based on the based on the condition of the crop, how healthy it is. Then amount of light is emitted, reflected back. So we measure this light, and between 400 to 2500 nanometer in the spectral region, and between 400 to 700 is the one which tells you about the chlorophyll content of your plant, how healthy it is. If it is having a huge amount of chlorophyll, it is very healthy, and your reflectance will be less, because all your light energy will be absorbed by the chlorophyll. So you should have a less reflectance in the 400 to 700, and similarly from 700 to 1900, it is all called water absorption bands. It tells you about the plant health status, crop health status. So based on this data, so scientists working on this satellite data, they predict yearly whether the vegetation is healthy or it is under stress. If it is under stress, it is of what? Whether it is lack of water, or whether it is lack of nutrition, or whether it is lack of some other things. So the government agencies and the scientists using this satellite data, because satellite data is going to give you the information periodically, every day, every week, every month, over a region, over a area. So, for example, in Chidambaram, we can get the data every week. So, based on this data, we can find out that this crop is going to die in next week. So, this crop is going to yield this much. So, all these things, scientists, they work on this, and they get all these informations. So they have this indices, they call it as indices, where if it is something like 0 or less than something, it is dead, the plant is dead, and it is unhealthy, something like that. If something like 0.66 to 1, then it is very healthy. So if you have a satellite image over crop or over a field, wheat field or rice field or whatever it is. So based on this data, I can easily identify where the crop is healthy and where the crop is unhealthy. So accordingly, I can allocate my resources. Water management can be done, pesticide management can be done, and I can precisely I can go to that particular particular portion of that region of the land, and I can apply the water instead of applying the water to all the other region. So something like that. This is what precision agriculture says. So people, it's being now becoming very famous, and now a lot of irrigations are happening with something like drip irrigations and all those things. Similarly, the resource applications. If you go to the, I don't know, the Neyveli, I don't know, but I used to work with mining industries at Jharkhand and all those states, where before they blast, before they open the mine and all those things, they should know where exactly they open. It's not like that. They cannot dig something like that, and finally they should not come out until there is nothing, there is no minerals. So before they open, before they blast and open the mines, we call it as opening and this one. So they get all the scientific data from the satellites, pictures and all those things, and then they find out that this is the place where they have to open and they have to dig and they have to get the minerals, oils and whatever it is. So resource exploration is the one which is will help you. Similarly, the disaster monitoring, I was telling you, that floods and all those things. And then also the earth observations. So some small satellite developments have been now happening. A lot of private companies are there. They make their own satellites. We call it as a CubeSat, NanoSat, which is something like a 1 kilogram payload. I mean, the satellite, the CubeSats and all, it is something like 1 to 2 kilogram. That's a weight. Whereas the huge satellites, which is being sent for communications and all those sub things, it is something like a mini bus or something like that. So you can find out this big difference. So once we have this more and more CubeSats, we can have more and more launches, and also we will not spend more time and much money on this fuel required for this vehicles and all those things. This is something like a new region where people are working on these drones. You would have seen these drones being used for film shootings and all those police patrolling and all those wedding shootings and all those things. But people are using it for scientific application also. So they mount this payloads, the cameras and all those things in the drone, and they fly over the region and they capture the data very locally. Say, for example, on your left top corner of your screen, this is a RGB image, which is something like your normal camera, like your mobile phone camera. If you capture it, it will give you a good, beautiful RGB image. Whereas if you put a NIR camera and if you fly the same region, it will give a different image, different information. And similarly, if you use it with a near infrared red and green camera, it will give you a different information. And the recent one we use is the NDVI cameras, which is called as hyperspectral cameras, and we fly over the region on this one. So we can easily identify now where the crop is stressed, where the crop is healthy very quickly. Within few minutes, we will know that this is the region where I need to apply water, where this is the region where I need to apply the pesticides. So we can help the farmers and the agriculturists and the people behind this to have a yield, to have a very high yield from the crops they cultivate. So this is what the mapping will give you the data, something like this. And also we can also classify the trees or crops in the field. For example, citrus, if you have a citrus in something like 5 acres or 10 acres, we can easily classify the crops, which is healthy and which is not healthy, and also which is going to yield now, which is going to yield after 1 week, which is going to yield after 10 days, so that you can precisely, you can cultivate it instead of preliminary. Suppose then instead of putting this chemicals and all those things to ripen it, so those things it can be avoided. So that is where the quality of the fruit is also be very important. Similarly, people are using it for your oil exploration, hyperspectral oil exploration group. The left side of your screen, you can see it's a RGB camera where they have captured it over a forest, and they were not able to identify a anomaly, a high-level anomaly, which is being shadowed by your normal camera. But with the satellite image, with the hyperspectral camera, we can identify it, and then we can go there and we can do the mining activities, and we can get the natural resources. So these are all some of the new applications coming out. So I think I'm going to finish it in another 2 or 3 slides. And so to summarize this, basically the space science provides a lot of employment opportunities in a diversified field. That is what my basic point I want to convey to you all. And it is not just limited to mapping a distant planet or something. Those are the things in earlier days people used to do it. They send the satellites to see that what is there in the other planets or something like that. But now every year India is spending a huge amount of money for the space sector. And also recently I understand that some 4 Indian astronauts are being trained, and we are going to have a soon mission where we are going to send these people to the space sometime in December 2021 or something like this. So a lot of training is going on, a lot of things are going on, and new launch vehicles are being developed and being developed with an association with other countries like Brazil and other countries. And also we have a plan to launch this Chandrayaan 3 in 2021, and we are also involved in this project. As I told you, we have been supplying some instruments and test facilities we are developing for them, Space Application Center. And India is almost like spending 4,000 crores for conducting a deep ocean survey projects also for the next 5 years. So it's a huge money. It's a huge money, and also they need a lot of resources. So that is what human resources that they need, ISRO. And now the government of India has opened up the private sectors to participate in these space programs. And I don't know whether it is a good move or not, but there are almost like more than now 500 companies. They have become partner with ISRO to carry out various range of space activities, which includes providing materials, mechanical fabrications, electronic fabrications, system developments, and all those things. And if you remember, in automobile industries, Chennai is the automobile hub where we have a lot of car manufacturers like Hyundai and all those things. But there are so many other small companies who supply the components and parts to these huge companies like Hyundai and all those things. So same thing ISRO is trying to do now. So they are going to associate with so many companies, private companies, and get all these parts and things required for their space programs. So India is going to spend a lot of money on this, and so obviously it says that there is going to be a lot of opportunities for the young scientists and young engineers to involve themselves in these programs. So that's my end of the slide, and I would like to thank you again, and I wish all the very best for the students. And now I can take any questions. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for
Yes.
the
அவனே
Yeah. So I'd like to take any questions or any doubts or something, so that I can interact with the students and I can provide some informations to them.
Okay, Purushot, a few questions basically. Like you have mentioned ISRO as the premier agency in India, and then the experience of promotion. And you also mentioned that there are many private companies.
Yes.
And are private companies there. I mean, how to identify them? Because the government has its own procedures, right? You may have to, I think there are different will getting into any of these private companies will help our students in getting into ISRO at a later stage. Initially, if they are unable to get into ISRO or because can they first try to work with smaller companies and later they can try that option?
Yes, yes, Maggie. There are some companies who supply these components and parts to these ISRO centers, and they recruit a lot of engineers, particularly the mechanical engineers and electronics background engineers, and for developing this new components. Basically, it's not going to be a readily available component because each science program, each space program is different and unique. So they need to develop from the scratch the sensors which is required for a specific application. If you want to send a sensor, if you want to put a sensor in the satellite for a application for agriculture remote sensing, that is totally different than suppose if you want a sensor for marine application. So the development of sensors is the very vital part, and a lot of agencies are involved, and there are a couple of companies, they take the people and they put them in ISRO centers. So they don't have the people, they don't have the engineers in their facility. It's like a small company. They start up the companies, they hire the people, and they put directly under ISRO. So they people work in ISRO facility. In ISRO itself, they will have a facility where these people go and work. So instead of doing all this thing from ISRO directly, now these companies have started doing it. Something like a manpower agency, something like that. So there are a lot of opportunities available.
Then what are the qualifications required from students to get into these and how to apply? I mean, how to find out these companies?
So the basic qualification is the BE, BE or BTech in electronics and background and mechanical engineering background, and particularly computer science and IT people. So it's a diversified field requirement is there. It is not specifically for, suppose for example, a IT company, they won't hire people from mechanical background or something like a core engineering background. So they hire people from purely on computer science and information technology like this. Whereas the ISRO group, ISRO requirement is it's in a diversified field. So they need, for example, people from mechanical engineering background for developing their launch vehicles and for developing their fuel cells and all those things. Similarly, they need a lot of people for IT people for their data analysis and data manipulations and data management, and also the electronics people. So it's a diversified requirement for the ISRO and people working for ISRO also. So in our company, in Electrotech, we have people from electronics background because our requirement is we supply only the instrumentation part to the ISRO projects. So we don't require people from mechanical or other backgrounds or even computer science background because our specific job role is to supply the specific sensors, specific instruments for the ISRO projects. Similarly, there are other companies. As I told you now, Government of India has announced this partnership with private companies. So now there are other companies, they develop their own algorithms, they develop their own things. So where they need a lot of people for the other activities. It's not just one single this one resource.
But how to identify these companies? Especially you are there in Electrotech, okay, we don't know Electrotech. But generally by going and searching, we'll be able to find out these private companies or what these private companies are.
Yeah, so basically once we start working, once any company which is going to start working with these organizations, big organizations like ISRO or DORDO or something, they used to have a MOU, understanding, and then they always put this in their website, ISRO website. If you go there and you can find out their international agencies and also the local collaborations with whom they are working. So we can easily identify who are the people directly related, associated with ISRO. So it is all available in the website and we can identify them very quickly. Both the international collaborators and also the national collaborators.
So the students need to go through not only the career portion, but also going to, understand the MOUs are with which companies, and then they can, from there, they can go to the company's website and apply, correct? That is what.
Yes, because we don't know, because we don't have a current list of companies which is directly collaborating with ISRO. So as of now, we know that it's going to be something like 500 companies in this next financial year, this 2021 something. So 500 companies are going to sign the contract with ISRO. So there is going to be a huge requirement for this.
There is a very, very interesting insight.
And if you go to the ISRO website for that career link, you can find out every day they post something like 10 requirements for their projects, for their JRFs or whatever it is. So they recruit a lot of people. And, because whenever I visit the ISRO centers, I always meet a new team of people. So it's one team will work on this project and then they will be moved to another project. So another team will come in, a new phase will come in. So always I interact with the new people only whenever I go to the research centers.
So what are the opportunities? I mean, does chemical engineers have any opportunity in ISRO?
Chemical, yeah, particularly in liquid propulsion center in Thiruvananthapuram. So they take a lot of people from chemical engineering background for their fuel requirements, for their launch vehicles fuels. So they develop because India, we develop our own launch facilities, launch vehicles, and also the engines, aerogenic engines, and all those things. We have our own facilities. So where the people from chemical engineering background, so they are also required. In one of my slides, it's all there in the ISRO website. But in one of my slides, I was showing that LVSS in Trivandrum. So they have where the people from chemical engineering background, they work on this facility.
So is GATE score necessary here for getting a job? Any idea about that? GATE, do people students need to write GATE, the graduate aptitude test program to get into it, or is it just a direct application?
No, if the direct recruitment from ISRO is, they have their own central recruitment board, and there is one written examination is there, and there are certain levels like level 1, level 2 something. You have to pass those levels, and then finally the interview will be. So it is their recruitment process is totally different. ISRO, it is there on the website. They have a central recruitment board, CRB.
So now again, from India to get into an international agency, it is better to have an Indian exposure and then go there, or can people directly apply there?
No, it all depends upon the background of the student, and if they are highly qualified and writing on space programs, they can directly apply to the NASA also. NASA also, they recruit a lot of people from India, and a lot of people are working. And there is some programs going on with collaboration with our ISRO and NASA, so they can directly collaborate with them also. For example, recently we have been working with Space Application Center in collaboration with NASA project, and it is called AVRIS Everis NG project, where we are asking NASA satellites to fly over the Indian region and to collect the data and give it to us, because we don't have that sensor in our satellites. So people like private companies, for example, Magendra and Magendra, the tractor company. So now they are also entering into this field. So instead of the satellite is something different. But apart from satellite, there are drones are there. There are remote launch vehicles are there. And also there is another remote sensing technology is available, where instead of sending the satellites, people send a small balloons, weather balloons, we call it as small balloons, teethed balloons, something like that. And they put the sensors, before they put it in the satellites, they do all this research. First, they do the ground research. They test the systems in the ground, and then they put it in a UAV and fly and see how it is. And then they put it in a balloon and see slightly in a different altitude. So they do all these things. So for each and everything, they have separate companies doing it. And so once we dig into this, once we enter into this, and once we do a thorough research on this space science, particularly this ISRO projects and associated this one, there is plenty of opportunities available. But one should be skilled enough to handle this. That is very important.
So again, what are the skills required? Can you just put them in few words, like the essential skills required to get into a space agency?
So the basic thing is the first, it's a general basic thing is like in yesterday's also Srini is telling. So the communication skill is very important, and because we need to work as a team with a lot of people, a lot of scientists and other people. So the communication skill is very important. So one has to develop the English and the Hindi and the other languages skill is very important. The second thing is that technology, technical background. So particularly with electronics or instrumentation or background something, so you need to be highly qualified to enter into this ISRO projects or whatever it is. And the third one is the additional courses are available. So like, for example, in computer science engineering or something, we don't do only with BTech or BE. So we come out and we do some lot of other programs like Java, C++, or whatever it is. So same thing is available for space science programs also. So there are so many PG courses available, like certification courses are available. Say, for example, if my domain, after finishing my BE, electronics and instrumentation, suppose if I want to specifically concentrate only on my hardware design or something like that, then there is a course on IARS Dehradun is available where we can do a short-term course and we can qualify. We can just enhance our knowledge. So those are all the advantages we are having to enter into ISRO.
So by doing a course, that will definitely help. I mean, if somebody wants to get into space-related things, is that what you're saying, or a BE is good enough?
B will not be that much. I mean, I will not say B is sufficient to enter, but it's a basic thing. B is required, and you need to have these additional skills also to you, and it can be pursued parallelly also. So it is not that you have to finish this PG courses and then only you can enter into ISR. It's not like that. Because once we enter into IARS, Dehradun, and once we start doing these courses, automatically for the ISRO projects, they recruit the students from there directly. So directly, if you are having IARS certified course, this one, so they directly recruit the people from them. So in one of my slides, also I have told you, when you're doing your PG in Indian Institute of Space Science Technology, IISST in Trivandrum, so they recruit the candidates directly from them. Those who are doing the PG courses, MTech or PhD or whatever it is. So instead of going for an open this one, so that will also be very helpful.
Now with this, what do you think are the opportunities available to?
Yeah, drone remote sensing is the one which recently, I mean, last 2-3 years, it is booming up, and there are so many inquiries we are also getting, and even we are also thinking to enter into this drone remote sensing field where we want to have some drones and do this. So basically, now another thing is there are so many other social things are happening. The crop insurance, government is spending huge amount of money for this crop insurance. So basically, one can say that my crop is it's not LPR, it got damaged or something, some flood or something like that. But how to assess it? So, and also we know that there are a lot of scams are going on. So how to assess that? So people put the drone, people fly with the drone with the sensor and they assess it. If you see the TV news, once during the flood, they fly with the drone and they will show you how much flood was there, how much water is logging and all those things. Same thing, if you put a scientific camera and if you fly over the crop where it is flood affected, one can easily assess the damage, and then accordingly we can allocate the funds. According to the government can allocate the funds, and so many private companies are now involved in this for Precision Ag, particularly. And you can put a sprayer, you can put a pesticide sprayer in a drone, and you can fly over the agriculture crop region, and you can spray the pesticides remotely, and also where exactly it required, you can spray. So all those things are now coming up. And there is a company in Pune, and they work in this grape orchards, and they assess this grape quality before they ripen or something. So drone remote sensing is one very interesting. So where a lot of mechanical and aeronautical engineers are required to develop the drones, because a drone it's like a toy. It's like a toy. So it may crash, it may happen, anything. It requires periodic maintenance and all those things. So I know that a lot of drone companies have now started up recently, in the last 2-3 years, and they are asking us to develop the sensors to put them in their drone and fly. So that's also a very good, interesting development in this remote sensing.
Okay. To add to what you just mentioned about drones, I think last month we had a session on future of mobility. So in which one of our alumni from 93 batch, Abhijit, who's working in Bosch, he was mentioning that even in automobile sector, so they're expecting drones drones to replace many goods, even the goods carriage could be replaced by drones. And we are also hearing a lot of news that Amazon is going to use drones for delivery in the US. So, I mean, it looks like drones are going to take over, and students can look at it as an option. But do you also see, I mean, can you also suggest what are the entrepreneurial opportunities available as far as this space? You said so most of the equipment or instruments that you import from other countries. So can you also briefly tell us, one is about the opportunities in drone as well as the other areas where students can, I mean, either do a startup or look at those opportunities?
Yeah, so another opportunity where I found is this data processing centers, satellite data processing centers, where there is a huge amount of data available from the satellites, and it's where people are finding it very difficult to process the data on time. So still, I know that even we are not able to completely process the Chandrayaan-1 data. I mean, we don't have that supercomputers, or we don't have enough manpower to do all those things. So people are now, ISRO particularly, that's why they are going to collaborate with the private companies. So they will give the data to the private companies, and they analyze the data, and they will give them the result. Instead of ISRO spending their time and money to do all these things. So they are going to have a collaboration with private companies. So we will know that what set of data they are going to provide to the end users. Something like very specialized data, something like confidential data they cannot share, but scientific data. Even we get a lot of requests from ISRO centers to fly and give them the data. So they don't want to spend time and money to collect the data and to process the data. So they are going to outsource it. So one can start up a company, and they can provide the data required for them. And so with the drone, with all those steps and all those things. So similarly, once we collect the data, so we can process the data and we can give them the final output. So this is what it is. So that is also another opportunity available for the engineers to start a company and to provide the data, required data for the ISRO and other centers. Because ISRO, they don't have a direct employees. So they always have a contract employees and something like that. So they are now trying to outsource it. In the last 2-3 years, I found that, because earlier they won't allow the private companies to enter even into the campus for some sort of a thing. But now they are having a lot of interactions with private companies and startup companies. And in fact, they also fund the companies to start for a project. Suppose if you have a very innovative project, and if you tell them that I have 5 drones and I want to fly this region, Tamil Nadu, and I will give you this data periodically, they will fund you. They will provide you necessary funds and infrastructures, so that all they need is the data output from you.
Now, I think the moderator also has some questions. You can ask now.
So the question which I got is working experience needed for jobs in ISRO?
No, it depends upon the type, nature of job they are going to recruit. So there is a lot of opportunity for the freshers. Even if you right now, if you go to the ISRO website, the careers, I have seen a couple of jobs for freshers. So there is always a scope for the freshers to directly join in ISRO. It depends upon the level, the entry level. So there are they used to call it as a scientist B, C, D, E, F, G ranking is there. So for scientist B and something like that, they always take the freshers from electronics background, chemical engineering background, computer science, or whatever it is. So then after joining there, also you can do the PhDs or MTech or whatever it is. They also allow you to do this, and then finally they will get inside. So freshers can apply.
Okay, thank you, sir. Then does the job in space science need any special talents?
Yes, as I told you, talent is something like a general term. So it depends upon the knowledge we gained from the academic institutes and also from other resources. So yes, it needs special skills to enter into this ISRO campus direct recruitment, and you need to have a very good academic results, background. So minimum requirement is something like 60% or more throughout your academic career.
Okay, sir. So now we have our esteemed dean with us. So, sir, can you share a few words?
Yeah, thank you. So good afternoon, Mr. Purushothaman.
Good afternoon, sir.
So happy to associate with you. Sorry that I was in a tender bid meeting, so I could not join at the beginning. So thank you very much. In fact, I missed a lot, I think. So in fact, it is my related field, remote sensing. We do a lot in water resources, irrigation sector and all. So I think the students would have been benefited much by your inputs. So thank you very much. In fact, ISRO, that is the success of ISRO, that is a premier government organization which has succeeded. I think the success rate is the maximum in ISRO. If you compare the government organizations in India, at least. So the profound success is due to the teamwork. So let me mention about the teamwork. So teamwork, so let me pose some questions. I think one or two students can answer. So this is again you can see the birds flying, right? Say the birds migrating even from Australia to India. They travel at a stretch, I mean, say 4,000 or 5,000 or even 6,000, 7,000 kilometers over a period of time continuously, and then land. And then again, they go back after some time. So if you see those migratory birds, they have a pattern of flying. So can anybody put in the chat at least in what pattern they fly? If you have observed nature, you can easily answer this question. You can put in the chat. The student who knows the answer for this can put in the chat. In what form? So it resembles a letter, English alphabet. In what format it flies? The migratory birds fly. Yeah, very good. It is an inverted V shape. Thanks to Bhuvaneshwari from Tripoli. So it is an inverted V shape, right? So you know what there are many things you can learn regarding the teamwork concept, how teamwork will induce success, right? Great success, grand success, in fact. The thing is, say the bird, which is the leader, you can call. There will be one bird at the center, and then two birds, and then two birds like that. So when they flutter their wings, the first bird, right, which is the leader you can call. So when it flutters its wings, it creates a sort of, say, some kind of low pressure, or minimizes the wind velocity there. And therefore, the bird which is following that, the two birds, it has to spend lesser energy to fly forward. And then they also flutter, and then in the third row, if you see, they have to spend still lesser energy, and then the birds in the last row, they have to spend the least energy. So like that they go, and then after some time, when the leader bird becomes tired because it is spending maximum energy, so that will go to the last. And then the bird in the last row will go to the front and take the leadership. So this is what we call situational leadership, right? In teamwork, there is no single leader. There will be multiple leaders and leaders at different points of time, and whenever they request. See, again, in fact, Mr. Mahendra Kumar, Mr. Purushothaman, Mr. Gopi, who are there now, will very well appreciate. And also when we were students, in fact, we had a group study, so which is really missing in the present day students, I find. So teamwork. So in fact, of course, teachers act as catalysts, and then the students, when they learn themselves, right? In fact, you can learn faster, in fact, 10 times or 20 times faster than what you learn from the teacher. Of course, the basics you get from the teacher, and then you can build on fastly by discussing with your teammates, I mean the classmates. So in that way, this migratory birds, you can pick out a lot of points from this flying pattern. If you search the net, you can get it. So this is based on the boundary layer concept in fluid mechanics. And also there is a very good fable on teamwork. That is a tortoise and hare story. Let me not take much of your time because you'll be going for the lunch and then coming back for maybe the laboratory class at 1:30. So only thing is, so ISRO's success is because of the team effort, the proper coordination and commitment among themselves, right? So that kind of habits, if you inculcate in your, particularly now, at least from now on, you will definitely reach the pinnacle of glory, pinnacle of success. With this, I think I'll complete my pep talk and then leave it to the organizers to continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, I was a student and I was there at the fluid mechanics laboratory when you are there. So it's really very much honor and privilege to meet you and to share my experience in front of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
I remember we spent time at this fluid mechanics lab and you were there. Yeah.
In fact, this was collected first to me by Mr. Mahendra Kumar when he met me some 3-4 years back.
Yeah, so I used to come to Department of Earth Science regularly when Professor C. Arumugam was there, and
Okay.
I was involved in the hyperspectral remote sensing research.
Very good, very good, very good.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.